Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to Amity University. Amity University is a research and innovation-driven university. At Amity University, we follow the ideals, values, and sanskars inculcated in us by none other than our founder president, Dr. Ashok K. Chauhan sir, who believes that every Amitian is an asset to the nation, the society, the global society at large, and we believe in amity is what the values which we take to the world and bring the global values to amity. So welcome to the webinar series on Transgenders Act 2019 and the Rules 2020. So this webinar series is in collaboration with the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, Government of India, under the directions of Giriraj sir and our dear and honorable joint head and additional director, Professor Dr. Aditya Tomar sir, who inspire us every day and tell us that we can do it. And we are also very grateful to the ministry who should trust in us. So as Mahatma Gandhi says, that truth will never damage a cause that is just. And the truth is that Amity Legal Aid and Literacy Committee is one of the largest student-led committees, as Amity Law School Noida is the largest law school in the Asia Pacific region. So without any further ado, I welcome all the panelists for this special webinar series. And to begin with this webinar series, I'll request Vijay to share the Saraswati Vandana video as we invoke the goddess of learning to lead us to light. Vijay Agarwal.
Om Bhur Bhurvasvaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Naha Prachodayat Dhiyo Yo Naha Prachodayat He Sharide Ma Ajnanita Se Hame Tar De Ma He Sharide Ma Ajnanita Se Hame Tar De Ma तो श्वेत वर्णी कमल पे विराजे हाथों में वीणा मुकुट सर पे साजे तो श्वेत वर्णी कमल पे विराजे हाथों में वीणा मुकुट सर पे साजे मन से हमारे मिटा दे अंधेरे हमको जालो का संसार दे माँ हे शारदे माँ अज्ञानता से हमें तार दे माँ अज्ञानता से हमें तार दे माँ अज्ञानता से हमें तार दे माँ.
That's beautiful. And as we invoke the goddess, we feel that we are blessed. As prayers go up, the blessings come down. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, once again. Welcome to the 5th webinar in the series of webinars on Transgenders Act 2019 and the Rules 2020. We are very thankful to the ministry who has shown so much confidence in us, and also to one person who is the torchbearer of this webinar series, none other than our very dear and respected Joint HOI and Additional Director, Professor Dr. Aditya Tomar sir. I'll now request you, sir, to present the welcome address.
Thank you, Dr. Sumitra. First of all, in this session of Transgender Person Act 2019 vis-a-vis NALSA judgment webinar supported by National Institute of Social Defense, Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, Government of India, I would like to take the privilege to welcome our honorable guest, Shri Sohail Kazmi Sahab. Most welcome, sir, that you spared your valuable time to address the students and the faculty members. Our special guest, Mr. Deepak Singh Baloria ji, Advocate, Jammu and Kashmir High Court, Ms. Himanshi, Advocate, Supreme Court of India, and our dear colleague, Ms. Tusha Singh, Faculty, Amity Law School, Noida. So formally, I would like to welcome to all the guests to spare their valuable time to guide this very special topic. As I said, special in terms of whenever we are talking about the social justice, social equilibrium, then we need to take special care about these vulnerable sections of our society, that is the transgenders and disabled. So with this motto that the society members in general have a humane feeling about this vulnerable section, the ministry started this this program to organize sensitization program in virtual mode and physical mode. So from last year, we started these kind of programs, started with a physical sensitization workshop. And now this, as Dr. Sumitra already told about, that this is the 5th edition of the webinar in which we are just trying to enlighten to the different sections of our society. In this webinar, not only the student of Amity Law School, Noida, even Amity Group, which consists 12 law school and the different law schools across the nation, are joined us with this platform and through YouTube link. So without taking much of time, I would like to welcome Deepak Baloria ji, Sohail Kazmi Sahab, Tusha Singh ji, Ms. Himanshi, and our most respected guest, Honorable Mr. Justice Rajesh Tandon, who will join us shortly. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Aditya sir. You always inspire us with your beautiful words. Well, ladies and gentlemen, not for nothing. The great German thinker Goethe once said, I am what I am, so take me as I am. And also, as Aditya sir just said, that we came up with this idea to proceed with the webinars on Transgenders Act 2019 and the Rules 2020 with so much of support from the ministry. And we started off with one offline training program on the transgenders. And right now we are very proud and delighted to say that now we have a totally dedicated cell at Amity Legal Aid and Literacy Committee in the name of Transgender Persons Rights Cell and the Disability Rights Cell. So we also have a satellite office at gate number 2A of the university premises. Thank you, Ministry, and thank you, Aditya sir, for paving the way for us. Ladies and gentlemen, today we also have with us our very dear and respected Joint HOI ma'am, Professor Dr. Shefali Raizada ma'am, who has always motivated us, and madam has always promoted us to do best things for Amity Law School. And just recently, ma'am had conducted a very grand event on International Women's Day, which was appreciated by everybody. And at Amity University, we all girls and women feel so secure because founder president Dr. Ashok K. Chauhan sir has given us the wings to fly. So I'll now request respected Joint HOI and Additional Director, Professor Dr. Shefali Raizada ma'am, to speak a few words with all of us. Over to you, respected ma'am. Shefali ma'am, can you hear me? Maybe ma'am is not able to listen to me. So we will move ahead and maybe ma'am will address us later. So coming to today's webinar session. So now proceeding for the webinar. So we have time till 5:30. So we will try to make most of the time. And before proceeding on today's webinar, I'll request the co-convener of this webinar series and also the co-moderator of this webinar series, Dr. Nitin Sharma sir, to speak a few words.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So first of all, welcome to all the esteemed guests, and most importantly, as already been told by our honorable HOI sir, Dr. Aditya Tomar sir, and Dr. Sumitra Singh ma'am, the broader contours and the broader vision of initiating this sensitization program. And most importantly, through these webinars, we have tried to touch each and every aspect of transgender person's life, be it their health rights, be it their rights to education, be it the grievance redressal mechanism we have in case we are going to face any sort of violation regarding to their rights. And most importantly, we are also going to touch some important institutions like National Transgenders Commission. And even though as far as the today's webinar is concerned, we are going to see the judicial approach as well as the emerging judicial trends, and starting with NALSA judgment nowadays, and even in the past we have seen number of other judgments coming up in the form of like we have Navtesh Singh Johar judgment case. So today the main crux is about the discussion surrounding NALSA judgment, and how this judgment is a sort of watershed towards realizing the transgender rights in India. And as ma'am has already said, this particular webinar series is supported by the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, and we are extremely thankful to the director R. Giriraj sir and Shweta Sehgal ma'am for reposing trust in us. And in the meantime, the coming days also, we are planning to start some more sensitization programs, and even in during these webinars, we are joined by institutions of national repute, right from Jammu and Kashmir to the southern parts of India, as well as from prominent professors from all the premier institutions. So I feel this discussion is going to build new gender vision, and as well as to enlighten the and to broaden the gender perspective which we are having now. So with this, I don't want to be with the esteemed speakers and with the audience. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. And with this, I must say, transgender rights are also human rights. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Well, everybody, this is the fifth webinar in the series of webinars, and the topic for the webinar today is Transgender Persons Act 2019 vis-a-vis NALSA judgment. So it becomes imperative to me to tell that it was in the year 2014 that the Supreme Court of India, in the case of the National Legal Services Authority versus Union of India, established the foundation for the rights of the transgender persons in India by recognizing transgender as the third gender. And well, we all need to understand that the dignity of an individual as right to live with dignity is recognized as a fundamental right in our Indian Constitution. So without any further ado, I'll now request the first speaker of the day, who is like my elder brother, Mr. Sohail Kazmi, who is an eminent journalist of Jammu and Kashmir. Sir is the editor of one of the largest selling newspapers in Jammu and Kashmir. So over to Mr. Sohail Kazmi. Sir, you're on mute, sir. Sohail, sir, you're on mute. Yeah, you're on mute, sir.
Okay, ma'am.
Yes,
Okay.
sir. So we can hear you. Yeah.
First of all, I am thankful to the university, then to the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, and especially Dr. Sumitra ji, Nitin sir, Ashok K. Chauhan sir. I am thankful to invite me for such a beautiful discussion. क्योंकि टाइम बहुत कम था, ज्यादा इस पे नजर नहीं कर सका, लेकिन as a law student, I can understand that problems, whatever kind of problems India is facing right now or the previous time, it is only judiciary which can modify the certain things in India as far as we have to go way forward. तो उसमें मैं ये पढ़ रहा था जो जजमेंट की आप बात कर रही हैं 2019 जजमेंट, उसमें जो इम्पोर्टेंट कंक्लूजन में सुमित्रा जी पढ़ रहा था, मेरी आवाज आ रही है? यू आर गेटिंग माय वॉइस? आवाज आ रही है?
जी सर, आपकी आवाज आ रही है काज़मी साहब।
मैं कंटिन्यू करूं?
जी प्लीज।
जो मैं सर इसमें पढ़ रहा था मोटा मोटा, जो इसका कंक्लूजन पढ़ रहा था इस जजमेंट का, उस कंक्लूजन में ये था एपेक्स कोर्ट इन नालसा वर्सेस यूनियन ऑफ इंडिया accorded the transgender community an equal constitutional status under the Indian legal matters for the first time. This was the crux of the judgment, which I was just going through. Recognize their fundamental rights under Part 3 of the Constitution, including, among others, gender equality and self-dignity. According to the Indian Constitution, Article 15, explicitly prohibits any discrimination based on gender. Any violation of these rights amounts to a violation of human rights. Then, however, the judgment offered no legislative framework to operationalize the rights propagated by the court, despite maintaining the cherished principles of equality, freedom, and freedom of expression. The Transgender Persons Protection of Rights Act 2019, to provide a statutory basis for constitutional rights and establish procedures to enforce them, was enacted in December 2019. Note that previous 3 drafts of this act, introduced in 2014, as told by ma'am, 2016 and 2018, lapsed in the parliament for their regressive provisions, such as the establishment of a screening committee to determine if a person was transgender. Thus, the 2019 Act removed many of these reprehensible provisions and sought to prohibit discrimination against transgender people while advocating for welfare provisions for historically marginalized communities. तो सर, जो मोटा आकार हम देख रहे थे इस जजमेंट का, उसमें ये था राइट टू इक्वालिटी. राइट टू इक्वालिटी में आप देखिए, अपनी चॉइस से, यू डोंट हैव योर चॉइस ऑफ बर्थ, as mentioned in the judgment, you are taking them as a third gender, replacing transgender by a third gender. So you are, Supreme Court says that कि हम इनको एक इक्वालिटी का राइट देना चाहते हैं, बिकॉज आप इस दुनिया में अपनी मर्जी से नहीं आए हैं, और किसी भी मुल्क या किसी भी वेलफेयर स्टेट का ये इंडेवर होना चाहिए राइट ऑफ इक्वालिटी का. तो मैं देख रहा था कि डिसेबिलिटी एक्ट जो था उसमें 5% और फिर 4% आपने उनको रिजर्वेशंस ऑनरेबल सुप्रीम कोर्ट की डायरेक्शंस पे दी थी. तो ये भी एक बड़ा चर्चा का विषय रहा हमेशा कि इस सेक्शन को किस तरह से इक्वालिटी का दर्जा दिया जाए, और उसकी शुरुआत जो है काफी देर से हुई, लेकिन 2019 की ये जजमेंट जो है इन्फोर्स करती थी कि वाकया ही ये लोग जो हैं ये भी हिंदुस्तान का एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट वर्ग है, और इनको भी इक्वालिटी और एक मेंटेनेबल सिस्टम में भारत के निर्माण के साथ, भारत की बढ़ोतरी के साथ चलने का पूरा हक है. और बड़ी खुशी होती है आज जब हम देखते हैं बहुत सी स्टेट्स में कि हमारा जो थर्ड जेंडर है वो पॉलिटिक्स में पार्टिसिपेट कर रहा है, वो कल्चर, मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ कल्चर की वेलफेयर स्कीम्स में पार्टिसिपेट कर रहा है, वो इंजीनियरिंग सेक्शन में आगे आ रहा है, यूनिवर्सिटीज में पढ़ रहा है और आगे चल रहा है. इसी तरह बहुत सी चीजें हैं जो हम देख रहे हैं. वो तभी मुमकिन है कि सब जो भारत के बुद्धिजीवी लोग हैं या जो इंटेलेक्चुअल क्लास है, जब ये जजमेंट आई तो एक विचार विमर्श करके सोचा गया, इस तरफ बात की गई, और एक पॉजिटिव रिस्पांस जो है बोथ साइड्स, दोनों तरफ से वो आया. और आज जो मैं आपसे आंकड़े बता रहा हूँ सर, वो यही है कि ये भी इक्वली पार्टिसिपेट करते हैं फॉर द वेलफेयर जो एस्टेब्लिशमेंट्स हैं टू मेक इंडिया स्ट्रॉन्गर, उनमें अपना बढ़ चढ़ के हिस्सा लेते हैं. और मुझे लगता है इट्स ए गुड स्टेप एंड वी शुड ऑल वेलकम इट. एंड आप जैसी वेबिनार्स या डिस्कशंस के साथ अवेयरनेस का जो एक सिलसिला है वो पूरे भारत में बढ़ेगा. और कोई शक नहीं है, वो लोग जिनको नहीं पता है या वो लोग जो अनछूते रहे इन चीजों से, विद द हेल्प ऑफ मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ सोशल जस्टिस एंड एम्पावरमेंट और आप जैसी एक प्रेस्टिजियस यूनिवर्सिटी के माध्यम से और आपके इतने जबरदस्त बोर्ड के माध्यम से पूरे भारत में और भारत के बाहर भी वो लोग जिनको इसका पता नहीं था या जिनको इन चीजों की खबर नहीं थी, वो भी चर्चा का हिस्सा बनेंगे और इसका फायदा और इन चीजों पे जरूर विचार विमर्श करेंगे, ताकि हम इक्वली पार्टिसिपेट करें अपने मुल्क की ग्रोथ में. अपने मुल्क का जो सपना है उस डेवलप्ड नेशंस की कतार में जो हम खड़े हैं एक डेवलप्ड कंट्री का, वो तभी मुमकिन है कि कोई भी सेक्शन डिप्राइव ना रहे, कोई भी सेक्शन अनप्रिविलेज्ड फील ना करे, वो सब मैं समझता हूँ ऐसी जजमेंट्स के साथ हमें आने वाले सालों में, आने वाले दिनों में काफी हद तक मदद करेंगी और हम इक्वालिटी के स्लोगन से भारत को आगे लेने में सक्षम होंगे।
थैंक यू सो मच सोहेल सर, बहुत ही अच्छा आपका रिफ्लेक्शन है इस टॉपिक पे। बड़ी बात यह है कि राइट टू इक्वालिटी को हर लेवल तक, हर तबके तक पहुंचाना माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी का भी सपना है, और एमिटी लीगल एड एंड लिटरेसी कमेटी का जो हमारा ये डेडिकेटेड सेल है, इसके बारे में कुछ बताना चाहूंगी। कोविड के टाइम पे हमने एक कैंपेन शुरू किया था, जो हम 14 फरवरी को, विच इज द वैलेंटाइंस डे टू स्प्रेड लव अक्रॉस द बॉर्डर्स, तो हमने एक कैंपेन शुरू किया था टू सेंसिटाइज ट्रांसजेंडर्स, और वो बहुत ज्यादा अप्रिशिएट हुआ कोविड टाइम्स में, एंड इट वाज डेफिनेटली अ प्राइड मोमेंट फॉर ऑल ऑफ अस व्हेन मैक्सिमम पीपल could join. तो वहीं से शुरुआत हुई थी ट्रांसजेंडर्स के सेंसिटाइजेशन से, एंड वी आर नाउ वेरी प्राउड with the blessings of our founder president that we now have a dedicated cell so that we can protect the rights and spread awareness regarding the Transgender Persons Act of 2019. Thank you Sohail sir, आप हमारे इनविटेशन पर आए। आप थोड़ी टाइम और रुकेंगे, आपके लिए कुछ क्वेश्चंस भी हैं, वरना मैं आपको मेल से भी सेंड करूंगी।
मैं इसमें एक चीज मेंशन कर सकता हूँ?
यस सर प्लीज,
अगर आपकी इजाजत हो तो। देखिए, वी as I told you that we are all SAARC countries, I mean 7 SAARC countries, साथ की साथ अंडर डेवलप्ड है, और अंडर डेवलप्ड नेशन में सबसे बड़ा जो मुल्क है पॉपुलेशन के आधार पे, एरिया के हिसाब से, वो भारत है। और यहाँ प्रॉब्लम ये रही कि नेगेटिविटी का स्टांस जो है वो ज्यादा फैलता है, और पॉजिटिविटी का स्टांस जिसकी शुरुआत आप और आपकी यूनिवर्सिटी ने की है, मैं समझता हूँ वो एक शुरुआत, ऐसी शुरुआत है जो किसी इबादत से कम नहीं है, क्योंकि ये शुरुआत हर कोई नहीं करता है, क्योंकि सोचना वेलफेयर के लिए, इंसानी वेलफेयर के लिए, ह्यूमन एंगल को उभारना, ह्यूमैनिटी की बात करना या इक्वालिटी की बात करना, ये सबका इंडेवर नहीं होता है टू प्रोजेक्ट और उस पर डिस्कशंस हों, वेबिनार्स हों, ये चीजें हों। तो मैं समझता हूँ आपको मुबारकबाद भी है, आपकी पूरी टीम को मुबारकबाद है, और यही चीजें, यही ऐसी ही जो हमारी जो इंडीवर्स हैं, हमें कहीं ना कहीं जरूर लेके जाएंगी, जिसका सपना हमारे पूर्वजों ने, जिसका सपना हमारे ऑनरेबल प्राइम मिनिस्टर देख रहे हैं, या उनकी क़यादत में जो उनकी काबीना है वो सोचती है कि भारत को ये दिशा है जिसमें हम आगे बढ़ सकते हैं। वो कोई वर्ग अपने आप को अंडर प्रिविलेज्ड या अपने आप को नेग्लेक्टेड ना समझे। तो उसकी शुरुआत के लिए आपको, आपकी टीम को, पूरे यूनिवर्सिटी के जो सीनियर लोग हैं, जिनके इनिशिएटिव्स पे, जिनके दर्शन पे हम सब आज बैठे हैं, और जरूर इसका फायदा जो है उन लोगों को भी होगा जो लोग कभी ट्रांसजेंडर्स के बारे में नेगेटिविटी का कोई सोच दिमाग में रखते थे। तो मैं समझता हूँ उनके भी दिमाग खुलेंगे कि ऐसा नहीं है, ऐसा है, इससे एक बेहतर समाज जो है वो उभर के सामने आ सकता है। थैंक यू वेरी मच मैम।
Thank you so much Sohail sir, thank you so much for joining. Let's have a round of applause for Sohail sir. Thank you so much sir, बहुत अच्छा लगा sir. You have so good reflections on this topic, और आप इतने दूर दराज के इलाके में रहकर आप 4th pillar of democracy जो कि मीडिया है, उससे राष्ट्र को और सशक्त कर रहे हैं। हमें गर्व है आप पे। Thank you so much for supporting Amity Legal Aid and Literacy Committee. Thank you so much. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there is also one person amongst us who is also the guiding light for Amity Law School Noida, none other than His Lordship, Honorable Justice Mr. Rajesh Tandon, sir. Welcome to this webinar, sir. Can you see me and can you hear me, sir? Sir, you are on mute, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now it's all right.
Yes. Thank you, Lordship, for making it to the webinar. Well, everybody, we are so proud to have none other than His Lordship Justice Rajesh Tandon, sir, amongst us. Sir is a senior
Good
advocate.
afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Good
And
afternoon. Good afternoon.
Sir is also
Rajesh.
the former judge at Uttarakhand High Court at Nainital, and sir is the chairman of Justice Rajesh Tandon Arbitration and Conciliation Center. Well, sir, His Lordship got enrolled as an advocate in the year 1968 and was designated as senior advocate in full court meeting held in the year 2000 by Allahabad High Court, and Sir was appointed as Additional Advocate General of Uttarakhand after bifurcation of state of UP for the state of Uttarakhand and state of UP in September 2002. Sir was appointed as a judge of Uttarakhand High Court in 2003, and his lordship was also appointed as chairperson of Cyber Appellate Tribunal by the President of India, and he took charge in 2009. Honorable Lordship has also been the Vice Chairman of Amity Institute of Cyber Law and Cyber Crime at Amity University, Noida, and Sir has been also appointed as the Chairman of Higher Technical Education, Uttarakhand in the year 2011. Sir, His Lordship also took charge as the member Human Rights Commission, Uttarakhand, having been appointed by His Excellency Governor of Uttarakhand in the year 2012. Apart from so many accolades and honors, His Lordship has also been awarded honorary professorship by Amity University in the year 2016. In the year 2017, His Lordship was appointed as the Chairman of State Law Commission, Uttarakhand, and Sir took charge in January 2017. We are so proud that Honorable Lordship always blesses us and is a guiding light for all of us at Amity Law School, Noida. So without any further ado, please welcome His Lordship, Honorable Justice, Mr. Rajesh Tandon, Sir, to address the gathering. Welcome to Amity once again, Honorable Lordship.
Thank you very much. On the dais, Sumita Singh, Mr. Dr. Aditya Tomar, and the founder who is all omnipresent, either in virtually or physically or whatever may be. His shadow is always present everywhere. Dr. A.K. Chauhan is present. He is omnipresent and he is present everywhere. Dr. Shaifali Rajada, who is also a very prominent professor of this Amity University. And I'm also thankful to Kajmi ji, who has spoken about this act. I remember that Dr. Aditya Tomar has earlier arranged a program in the Amity University, and I also participated on this subject of the very common subject. Now it has become a very common subject, that is the Transaction Protection of Rights Act 2019. This transgender persons is a subject that is as according to the Supreme Court, it is the third gender. Now I'll come to the discussion of the Supreme Court judgment of the NALSA also, and the Supreme Court judgment has described it as a third gender. That is, one is called female, the other is male, and it is a third gender, that is the transgender. Now the basis of the transgender that has been developed by the Honorable Supreme Court in the NALSA judgment, the Supreme Court has borrowed the principles of the Protection of Human Rights Act. When I will come to the NALSA judgment itself, then all of you will find that the basis of the transgender, this act, is the Protection of Human Rights Act, section 2D, which deals with the human rights, means the rights relating to life, liberty, equality, and dignity of the individual, guaranteed by the Constitution, are embodied in the international covenants and enforceable by courts in India. These three lines are very comprehensive. That is life, liberty, equality, and dignity. That is at par with Article 21 of the Constitution of India. Then international covenants and enforceable by courts in India, that is guaranteed by the Constitution, are embodied in the international covenants and enforceable by courts in India. Now, what are the internal covenants? that has also been defined under the Protection of Human Rights Act 1993. That is means the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights and the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights embodied, that is economic, social and cultural rights adopted by the General Assembly of the United Nations on the 16th of December 1966, and such other covenant or convention adopted by the General Assembly of the United Nations as the central government may by notification. This is the crux of the matter, that the whole Transgender Act deals with the principles of the human rights, that is dignity, liberty and all that, and then the international covenants, that is Universal Declaration of Human Rights, civil and political rights, all have become a genesis of this act itself. Now if I come to the act itself, that is Transgender Act, now it provides, that is prohibition against discrimination, that is no person or establishment shall discriminate against a transgender person or any of the following grounds, that is unfair treatment, denial of termination or denial of discontinuation, unfair treatment and all that. And then the recognition of identity of transgender person. A transgender person shall have a right to be recognized as such in accordance with the provisions of the act that it recognizes. Now then, in all these spheres, obligation to appropriate government, that is, it has been created. All this has come from the judgment of the NALSA, because when I will come to this judgment, it has dealt with all these aspects of the matter, and the entire act is based on the judgment of the NALSA, where the directions have also been given. Now, if I come to the judgment of the NALSA, as pointed out by Sumitra Singh ji in his uh, uh, in his panelist list, that is the crux of the whole matter, that is the NALSA judgment. Now the NALSA judgment has dealt with all the prospects of the human rights and also on the constitutional aspect of the matter. Now the general identity and sexual orientation, about the general identity and sexual orientation, the Supreme Court has dealt with. No gender identity is one of the gender and identity is one of the most fundamental aspects of life, which refers to a person's intrinsic sense of being made male, female, or transgender. A person's sex is usually assigned at birth, but a relatively small group of persons may bond with bodies which inappropriate both are certain aspects of both male and female psychology. At times, now then, the sexual orientation refers to an individual's enduring physical, romantic, or emotional attraction to another person. Sexual orientation includes transgender and gender variant people with heavy sexual orientation, and their sexual orientation may or may not change during or after gender transition. Then the Supreme Court has also quoted the United Nations and other human rights bodies on gender identity and sexual orientation. That is very important. These 4 lines which I'll read from the judgment of the NALSA, that is the crux of the matter of the whole Protection of Human Rights Act and the constitutional law. United Nations has been instrumental in advocating the protection and promotion of rights of sexual minorities, including transgender persons. Article 6 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, 1948, which I have just read, under the protection of human rights, that is the international covenant. This is the Universal Declaration of Right is one of the covenant. Article 6 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights 1948 and Article 16 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights 1966 recognize that every human being has the internet inherent right to live, and this right shall be protected that none shall be everywhere as a person before the law. Then Article 17 of the Civil and Political Rights states that no one shall be subjected to arbitrary or unlawful interference with his privacy, family home, or correspondence, not to unlawful attacks on his honor. That is the main thing. Dignity, that is the under the protection of human rights. The main thing is the dignity, honor, and reputation, and that everyone has the right to protection of law against such interference or attacks. Then the Supreme Court has further added that international, that is the International Commission of Jurists and the law against such interference or attacks, International Commission of Jurists, that is human rights organization, took a project to develop set of international legal principles on the application of international law to human rights violations based on sexual orientation and sexual identity to bring greater charity and coherence to state human rights obligations. This is the crux of the Supreme Court that is based on the human rights, protection of human rights. Now the Supreme Court has further quoted the enjoyment of human rights that is based on Universal Declaration of Human Rights. All human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. Human beings of all sexual orientation and gender identities are entitled to the full enjoyment of human rights. Now, this is the crux of the matter that is being recognized from the Protection of Human Rights Act. Now, the Supreme Court has further elaborated, that is UN bodies, regional human rights bodies, national courts, government commissions, and the Commissions for Human Rights, Council of Europe have enclosed the principles that is sexual orientation and gender identity. Other statutes as recognized in Article 2, paragraph 2 includes a sexual orientation, and the state parties to that person's sexual orientation will not be a barrier in their rights. Therefore, this act has been passed that there will be no barrier either in the employment, in the health services, or other things. Now, slowly and slowly, the Supreme Court from time to time has elaborated in the judgment of the that is NALSA judgment. In paragraph 47, the Supreme Court has added international covenants and norms are significant for the purpose of interpretation of gender equality. Article 1 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights 1948 states that all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. Article 3 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights states that everyone has a right to life, liberty, and security of persons. And similarly, Article 6 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights affirms that human being has the inherent right to life, which shall be protected by law. Therefore, the law has come. Now, then the Supreme Court has further added Article 253 of the Constitution of India. It states that the Parliament has the power to make any law for the whole or any part of the territory of India, all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States shall be supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the constitutional laws or any of the state to the contrary notwithstanding. Therefore, all the constitutional provisions, all the provisions of the human rights, all the provisions of the Declaration of Human Rights have become a binding effect on this Transgender Act, and that is why it has been. Now, the Supreme Court was further aware, because the protection of human rights, that is right to life, dignity, and all that, is just at par with Article 21 of the Constitution of India, which provides that the Article 21, as already indicated, guarantees the protection of personal autonomy of an individual, and that is why this legal recognition of third transgender identity has come up. That is, self-identified gender can be either male or female or a third gender. Then identifies as a person's a third gender and are not identified either as a male or female. This has been described by the Supreme Court. That is, it will be called a third gender. Now, then the Supreme Court has further elaborated Article 14, 15, 16, and 21 would indicate that these are transgenders, that is hijabs and all the hinjalas and all that, they will come under the third gender. That is, neither they are male or not female. That is the thing. Now the Supreme Court has further said that the right to pollution-free environment, right to reasonable residence, and right to food, right to every child, right to education, that based on the Mohini Jain's case, and all these are applicable to the third generator, that is the third gender, that is the Transgender Act. Then the Supreme Court from time to time has also said the right to treatment with humanity, with even the prisoners are liable to be protected. That is, even if they are under the prisoners, that is in the civil prison, they are also entitled for this protection. Then the Supreme Court has said in international human rights law, equality is found upon two comprehensive principles: non-discrimination and reasonable de-differentiation. Now, these are the principles on which it has been based, that is the Transgender Act. And basic spirit of our constitution is to provide each and every person of the nation equal opportunity to grow as a human being, irrespective of the race, caste, religion, or community. Therefore, the concept of equality that is found out in Article 14 of the Constitution of India, that is life, liberty, and 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 the principles contained under Article 21 will apply to the third gender, that is the present act. And therefore, the this judgment of the NALSA judgment has created this act, that is the Third Generation Act, where the Supreme Court has made a guideline for framing the act. And the Supreme Court has said we are in the age of democracy, that too substantive and liberal democracy. Such a democracy is not based solely on the rule of people through their representatives, namely from formal democracy. It has also principles of rule of law, human rights, independence of judiciary, separation of powers. All these things are the principles, and the Supreme Court from time to time has said that in the case of National Human Rights Commission versus State of Arunachal Pradesh, we are in a country governed by the rule of law, Our constitution confirms certain rights on every human being and certain other rights on citizens. Every person is entitled to equality before the law and equal protection of the laws. And with these principles, the Supreme Court, in the judgment of NALSA, has said that this will be neither male nor female. This will be a third gender, and that is why this Transgender Act has come into force. We have to follow the Transgender Act as it is a social justice protected under the Human Rights Act, protected under Article 14, 15, and 21 of the Constitution of India. This is the wholly based, and thank you for the organizers for this, for bringing on law, bringing to the humanity this protection of human rights and constitutional provisions for the third gender also. And the thanks to Sumita Singh, Adit Tomarji, and all the organizers for this program. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for always guiding us with your words of wisdom and experience. And sir, you very beautifully you have linked the current state of law with the human rights, emerging human rights jurisprudence, be it in the UTHR, or we have International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights and International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights. So truly the base of this present legislation lies in the emerging human rights jurisprudence, and we have seen the constant evolution of human rights in the form of first generation, second generation, and third generation rights. And in the last, like you have pointed out in a very highlighting manner, that this legislation is about is a social welfare legislation, or it is meaning its main intention is to promote social justice. And this is what at the outset of the webinar our revered HOI sir has also pointed out, to achieve social justice and to maintain social equilibrium. That's why with this aim in mind we are doing these seminars, and at the same time, sir, we are highly indebted to you, even though we are doing these webinars, but we are still remembering this thing, that at the when we have organized the first webinar, first offline sensitization program, you inaugurated it and you are with us, and you laid the foundation of this particular discourse on different perspectives of gender. So we are highly thankful to you for sparing your time and always guiding us, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Chai bana liya.
So moving forward, now I would like to call Advocate Dr. Deepak Singh Bhaloria, sir. So Advocate Deepak Singh Bhaloria, sir.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Government Standing Counsel for Union of India at Jammu and Kashmir High Court. He is also the former retainer lawyer, High Court Legal Service Authority, and also associated with J&K Grameen Bank, Standing Counsel for CMO Department, and Standing Counsel for a number of other corporate houses. So I request Advocate Deepak Singh Bhaloria, sir, to share his views. Most welcome, sir, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I would like to thank Amity University, Dr. Aditya Tomar, Dr. Sumitra Singh, Dr. Nitin Sharma, Dr. Shefali for inviting me in this webinar. And I would like to thank to Honorable Justice Rajesh Tandonji and Mr. Sohail Kazmi for speaking on this topic and enlightened us. So the topic for today is Transgender Persons Act 2019 vis-a-vis NALSA judgment. Before I start with the highlight of the case, let me first give you a brief introduction of the topic. We as a society has lacked gender awareness. Specific legislation and provisions are needed that will safeguard the rights of the individuals who do not identify as either male or female. The story of people who are generally referred to as transgender has generally transgender is a story of pain, misery, and agony. Just because they do not fit with the norms of that society has generally accepted. They have had to face not only the denial of rights, but also constant physical and mental violence. They are considered to be outcasts and kept far away from participation in various societal activities, be the social, religious, or political. In India, the rights of these individuals mainly arise of the various articles of Part 3 of the Constitution of India, that is fundamental rights. And these are right to equality, right to freedom, right against exploitation, right to freedom of religion, culture and educational rights, saving of certain laws, and rights to constitutional remedies. Now, talk about the case. However, at the international level, their rights are well established in various international legal documents, which includes the International Convention of Civil and Political Rights, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the Convention Against Torture and Other Cruel, Inhuman, or Degrading Treatment of Punishments, the Convention for Protection of Human Rights, the Yogyakarta Principle and Fundamental Freedoms, European Convention of Human Rights. Now the facts of the case. This case was filed by the title of the case was National Legal Services Authority versus Union of India. The National Legal Services Authority stands for the body which provide legal aid services at the national level, free legal aid services at the national level. Two writs were filed to protect the safeguard the rights of individuals that belong to the transgender community. One is filed by the National Legal Services Authority, and the other petition was filed by Pujya Mata Naseeb Kaur Ji, Women Welfare Society. It was a society registered association for the protection of the rights of the Kinner or transgender community. Lakshminarayan Tripathi, who considered himself to be a transgender, also approached the court and was also implicated in the present case. He claimed that being transgender, his rights are guaranteed by the Article 14 and 21 were being denied, and the court has to intervene so that he and other members of his community are not discriminated against anybody anymore. Now, what were the issues involved in this case? The first issue was, at the core of the current petitions were the issues that revolve around gender identity and the protection that were necessary to safeguard the rights and interests of persons who identify themselves with the third gender. Another question was whether a person who is born male but has female orientation has the right to be identified as a female. The same question arises when an individual uses surgery to change his or her sex. One more issue that the petitioner raised was whether a person who does not identify either as a male or a female has the right to be categorized in a third gender. Now, what was the petitioner's argument in this case? The petitioner, through their counsel, argued that the concept of binary gender strikes at the core of the right of equality, that is Article 14, right to life and personal liberty, that is Article 21, and freedom of expression, that is Article 19. The normalization of binary genders has further victimized and annihilated individuals that do not identify either of the genders. They further argued that due to non-identification as the third gender, the basic human dignity of such individuals is violated, and forces them to live on the fringes of the society for no fault of theirs. And what was the counter argument by the Union of India? The respondents, on the other hand, argued that the state has set up an expert committee on issues relating to transgender which is considering all kinds of opinions in order to help transgender individuals live a more prosperous and dignified life. They also contended that the committee will also consider the views of the petitioner so that a more robust policy is framed in this respect. Several states and union territories argued that they have taken a significant number of steps for the betterment of the lives of the transgender community. Now, what the Honorable Supreme Court has said on this, the judgment was delivered by the division bench comprising of Honorable Mr. Justice E.S. Radhakrishnan and Honorable Justice A.K. Sikri on 15th April 2014. Although Justice Sikri gave a different opinion with some additional comments. The comments of the court was, the court in its landmark judgment relied upon various judgments from foreign courts like New Zealand, Australia, Malaysia, Pakistan, and England. The court made a distinction between biological sex and psychological sex. The court said no to gender identification on the basis of biological sex and gave a full importance to the identification based on the psychological sex. The court ruled that all provisions in the international conventions, including the Yogya Karta principles, must be considered, must be recognized and followed, provided they are in consonance with the fundamental rights guaranteed by Part 3 of the Constitution. The court held that transgenders fall within the purview of the Indian Constitution and thus are fully entitled to the rights guaranteed therein. Article 14 guaranteed equality to any person, which means man, woman, and transgender. And as such, they are also guaranteed equal protection of law. They have equal rights in employment, healthcare, education, and civil rights. Discrimination on the grounds of sexual orientation and gender identity represents inequality before the law and unequal protection of the law under law and violates Article 14. The court further added that transgender individuals have freedom of expression under Article 19, whereby they can talk, dress, act, behave in a manner they like. They also have a right to live a life of dignity under Article 20. The court held that the state and central government must grant transgenders full recognition in the eyes of law so that they can get education and healthcare without being subjected to any kind of discrimination. The court also directed that Kinner eunuchs are to be treated as the third gender. It made various declarations and directions to the center and state government, such as to operate separate HIV zero surveillance centers, provisions for separate public toilet, and appropriate medical care in hospital for transgender. So what was the conclusion of the judgment? This judgment came as a fresh ray of hope for the transgender community, who have long suffered in silence in the face of large-scale discrimination and social justice. We cannot be naive to believe that this judgment will change the way society treats transgender individuals, but it is a start to right the wrongs that have taken place against transgender for centuries together. As for giving transgender equal rights in our society, in socio-religious and socio-political activities, there is a very long way to go. Now, before this judgment, before this case, there was no act for the protection of the rights of the transgender, and after the passing of this judgment, the act named as the Transgender Protection Act, the Transgender Person Protection and Rights Act 2019 came into existence. The main highlights of the act is provision against discrimination, any kind of discrimination against the transgenders, recognition of identity of transgenders, that is recognition of identity of transgender person, application for certificate of identity, issue of certificate of identity, change in gender, non-discrimination in employment, then right to residence. And there are certain penalties also, which I would like to tell the audience that what are the offenses and penalties in this act. Complies or antecedes a transgender person to include in the act of force or bonded labor other than any compulsory service for public purposes imposed by the government. Denies a transgender person the right of passage to a public place or obstructs such person from using or having access to a public place to which other members have access to or a right to use. Forces or causes a transgender person to leave household, village, or other place of residency and harms or injures or endangers the life, safety, health, or well-being, whether mental or physical, of a transgender person, or tends to do acts including causing physical abuse, sexual abuse, verbal and emotional abuse, economic abuse, shall be punishable with imprisonment for a term which may not be less than 6 months, but which may extend to 2 years and with fine. So with all, this is all from my side, and I would like to thank the organizers of the MIT University for organizing such a wonderful program, and thank you so much.
Let's have a round of applause for Deepak ji. Thank you so much. Wonderful presentation. And also, we also have some questions for you, which we will take up after 2 more presentations. Thank you so much for sparing your valuable time. I know that you're very busy with your work, but thank you for making it for Amity Legal Aid and Literacy Committee. We feel so proud that we have friends like you in sensitive areas, and that together we will make a change in the society and fulfill the dreams of our Prime Minister, who believes that India will definitely, it has been, and is on the way again to become a Vishwaguru. Thank you so much. Well, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, this is the 5th webinar in the series of webinars that we are organizing to bring awareness and sensitize the transgender persons. And right now, we also have a dedicated cell, which is named as Transgender Rights and Disability Rights Cell at Amity Legal Aid and Literacy Committee, and we have our satellite office at gate number 2A of the university premises. We feel very proud that His Lordship, Honorable Justice Mr. Rajesh Tandon sir, had motivated us many times, and it was because of him that with his blessings we had organized the first offline transgender sensitization program few months back. Thank you, Your Lordship, for being with us always. So moving ahead in the webinar, we have with us our very dear and very dynamic colleague, Ms. Tusha Singh. Tusha Singh is a faculty at Amity Law School, Noida, and she has been associated with Amity Legal Aid and Literacy Committee now since a long time. And now we look up to you, Ms. Tusha Singh, for your address. Over to you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I appreciate this audience because the fact that all intelligent people are sitting and talking about it is something that will actually aid towards awareness. And I'm really truly appreciating this assembly. So, an educator by profession and a researcher at heart, I really want to get into the discourse analysis of this entire concept. I want to deep dive. And so I want to start with the NALSA judgment that came in 2014. So there were 3 questions that were discussed that, okay, what is the third gender, right? So there were 3 things. Number one was the third gender with regards to our kinner and other kinds of population, which is transgender in our society. The second was the intersex variations, wherein a sex of a person is different than the gender that that person identifies with. And the third was gender fluidity. If a person does not identify with any of the gender norms that we have, then what? Are they third gender or not? So in this case, the distinction between, as Advocate Sir mentioned, it was mentioned that there's a difference between biological sex and psychological sex. The person with specific reproductive organs, for example, a male reproductive organ, that person can be biologically a male, but psychologically, the way that person perceives himself to be, that person can be of any other gender. This is a psychological sex. Now we have to understand that gender is a very interesting concept. It's a social construct. For example, a pigeon is a pigeon and not a crow, then that means that the society has termed it as a pigeon. So as a male and a female person, we just used to have two gender constructs before the 2014 judgment. The interesting part is that our judges, the courts and the legislatures that we have, they are mirroring the society. So as the understanding and the awareness of gender fluidity increased, the courts took that concept and made it tangible, made it so that we could understand it the best possible way. And therefore, we have the concept of gender fluidity. So one of the very interesting thing that the court did in this judgment was, we have prohibitions regarding discrimination with regards to many aspects under Article 15 and 16, including the term sex. So earlier, what used to happen, sex was synonymous with your gender. But after 2014 judgment, the courts wanted to differentiate. However, but if we differentiate, then what about gender? Gender is not mentioned in our constitution. So what the judges actually interpreted in the best way possible was that they amalgamated both of them so as to remove the loopholes, that the term sex will include the term gender as well. And this is how we got the right of self-identification. This is the freedom we had after the 2014 judgment, that was self-identification. We can identify, we can perceive ourselves as any other gender that we want to, right? Now let's talk about the Transgender Act. Now, there is a male, female, and transgenders. No, it is male, female, and the entire spectrum is the third gender, right? So this spectrum is LGBTQ+. The transgender, the term transgender is T in the LGBTQ+. So what the legislature did was that we took the T, the Transgender Act, we defined transgender in this act that we have of 2019. However, the legislature tried its best to include the number of variations that there could be. And it is very interesting. Just hear the definition that it has. It says that a person whose gender does not match with the gender assigned to that person at birth. So naturally, it covered that any other gender variations that people have, any other gender fluidity that a person wants to imbibe, they can do so. Intersex variation, it has the concepts of Kinnar and Hijra and Ravani and Yogata, etc. So it did bring about a lot of different concepts with regards to gender fluidity. And this was a very, very welcoming step, although a little etymologically speaking, a little difficult to understand from a legal perspective or literature perspective. Now, I want to point out that this law that we have, it did three things for us, three wonderful things it did. Number one, what does law do for us? Protection, recognition, and promotion. And that's what this law did. It gave us protection. It gave all the third gender community protection against discrimination, but it also gave recognition. So for example, if a person is born a female, that person does not have to recognize herself as a female. I do not have to specially recognize myself. But other people who are third gender people, they do not have recognition. They did not have recognition before this act. And now they got recognition after this act. Thirdly, promotion. So inclusion in our societal matters, in our political environment, this was kind of the promotion that this law brought in. So three very important things. Now I would like to discuss one very interesting conflict that both these have. The judgment that we just discussed, it discussed about self-declaration. A person does not have to go, for example, me, I don't have to go to an office or the government to declare myself as a female. I am a female, I have declared myself as that. And this is what the judgment said, that a person who is of a third gender, any other gender fluidity that person has, that person can self-declare themselves as any other gender, as the third gender. However, this act, the Transgender Act, this is one of the disadvantages, or is it though? The disadvantage is that in this act, it is very much important that you have to get a transgender certification. If you get yourself medically changed in context of gender, then you have to get a revised certification. So there is no concept of self-declaration. There is a legal declaration in question. Now, naturally, this was accepted in a very controversial form of way with regards to the third gender in our society. But there is one positive aspect of it too, which we are totally missing out on. So the one way wherein disadvantaged or a minority community in India can be uplifted, or that inequality gap can be lessened, is only by the way where we have records of it. How do we know as to whom do we have to uplift? And that was the reason of this certification, that then the government will have a certified record that, okay, these are the transgender, these are the third gendered people, and we have to make privileges, we have to make preferential laws so as to give them an edge, so as to give them a position, so as to give them a social status, so that they can be with everybody, the majority community, that is the male and the female gender types that we have. Now, this was the very interesting concept. However, I do want to say that both these, when we talk about the the case law and the act as well, one thing that it definitely does, it is attacking on the concept of othering, right? This is a very social legal concept. Othering is something wherein a person is differentiated on the basis of the different affiliation it has, right? So it is a very good start. It is a very good start to an entire evolving jurisprudence that there is in this topic, in this subject. However, it is still a matter of building. It is a matter in progress, because there is a lot of progress that is required still in this matter. This was my discourse analysis for this topic. Thank you so much.
Very nice, Ms. Tusha, very beautifully. And in simple words, you have maneuvered the topic so very well. Thank you so much for your presence. And we have some questions also for you. So we will take up the questions after Ms. Himanshi. So ladies and gentlemen, we now have the last speaker for the day, Ms. Himanshi Gupta. She is an advocate at the Honorable Supreme Court of India. And she has also the corporate experience of working with a law firm, and she takes up all the matters related to both civil and criminal cases. And she has done so many matters in Bombay High Court as well as Delhi High Court. And also, we are very proud that Himanshi is also our alumni. So glad that we also have an alumni connect today on the dais. So over to you, Ms. Himanshi. Would request you to present your address.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for having me over. I would like to thank all the teachers at Amity University, especially Dr. Aditya Tomar, for inviting me to speak on this certainly very sensitive topic today. I would also like to thank all the dignitaries with us, Sohail sir, your lordships, Tusha ma'am. Beautifully, they have all elaborated and articulated their views on the topics, on the topic related to transgenders. I don't think so I have much left, as all the speakers have already talked about the act and the NALSA judgment. However, I can definitely skip to the conclusion. And I don't want to bore everybody with certainly talking about my opinion on the said topic. But I still feel that all these long past transgenders, they are still searching for tranquility. However, this act is a great step towards bringing change in the society, but their execution is still fatal. If we talk about the sports industry, specifically, we can still see there's a lot of discrimination going on. However, penalization has been made, prohibition on this discrimination has been made. But the sports industry, if we see globally, they're still far from embracing the fact of inviting transgenders, having transgenders enabled groups where transgenders can play against transgenders. But what happens in the sports industry is all these transgenders have to go through a certain kind of operation in order to become a female, and in order to participate in all these Olympics, Olympic competitions, all the football competitions, and this can be seen globally. So I think this phenomena of going through a sex operation has to be stopped. It is still imbibed in our society. This was first actually recognized by Renee Richards. She was one of a very famous tennis player, and she actually filed a petition in New York against the New York human rights law bearing bar body test. Now, what was bar body test? It was actually a test which was conducted on all the transgenders candidates who were supposed to join the sports industry in order to play certain kind of sport. They had to prove their gender, and following which they had to prove how much chromosomes are there in body. So in order to prove these chromosomes, it has to be 10 nanomiles per liter. If your body has 10 nanomiles per liter of chromosomes, then you're allowed to play. However, during the course of time, it has been lowered down to 5 nanomiles per liter. But this thing still exists. Every transgender has to go through a certain kind of sex therapy operation in which they can change their gender in order to play in all these sports. After going through many deliberations and all these evidences, the New York court finally recognized that these tests should be banned, and appropriate measures must be taken in order to, enforce their dignity into the society. After which, many associations like football associations globally, International Olympic Committee started recognizing these norms of making all these transgenders participate in the sports competitions. But yes, they also had certain norms. They also had certain sex therapy operations which every candidate must need to go to in order to participate in all these competitions. But with the influx of time, with the advent of political leaders, different types of charismatic leaders, the scenario has been changing. They have been more empathetic in the manner to incorporate transgender into the community, so that they can also participate in different types of competitions, be it sports, be it cultural committee, be it at the legal front or the judicial front, at the governmental front. But this is seen very lately. However, its practice is still banned. Coming back to our topic, many countries like England, New Zealand, they have been introducing such policies which completely ban transgenders, which completely ban prohibition against these transgenders. If we see in England, Golf Association has introduced a policy including the secondary sex to participate in the sport of golf and have a recognition in sports. A New Zealand weightlifter, Laurel Hubbard, won 2 gold medals in the Pacific Games, and CC Tefler became the NCCA Division 2 national champion in 400-meter run and continued in the same way. Transgenders have made a recognition of their names as well as in the different countries, as we spoke. However, there are 2 problems. There are 2 wider problems which still exist in our society. First is the stigma which is attached with the transgenders. That person is a transgender. Oh my God, ye kuch kar dega, ye aisa ho jayega, waisa ho jayega. And we have been, brought up in our families in that way that we should not speak to them, which is why we shy away from adopting them into our society. It is very difficult for society in general to change. For one person to change, it takes a lot of guts to speak for the society. So the stigma attached, first, the stigma that is attached to the society. Secondly, a scientific basis. Now, we say that America is highly developed. So America can afford such technologies, which may cater to such operations. But talking about the developing countries, they still don't have the funds to cater to these, operations. So many sports athletes or many sports candidates who actually aspire to, represent their country at a global level, they cannot do it. because of these things. Other problems which add to this is only the elites amongst the developing nations may afford this. The non-beneficial person may not afford it. And simply because of these reasons, probably transgender community is, they only have the stigma to whether to go or not. I think 2 players recently, including Duti Chand, they have come forward, they have spoken about their sexuality, which is why they can participate. However, their families are still facing that stigma. They are going through that, problems of how to adopt this and how to, tell people what our children are doing, how they are making a change in the society. Certain recommendations that I'd like to present here, which may be incorporated, creating general awareness in the society, though the act is formalized, but many people don't know about this act. So general awareness can be created, through creation of more films in the society, more songs probably, or such shows or podcasts, which generally talks about the transgenders fighting spirits, how they came about in the society, what was their ideology, what is the stigma attached to the community, how this community can actually help each other, and they can march ahead. Also, strict formulation of these laws. Now that the law is created, but we still see the discrimination is intact. Why discrimination is not prohibited? हमने बोल दिया ऑक्यूपेशन में प्रोहिबिशन नहीं हो सकता, हमने बोल दिया एजुकेशन में नहीं हो सकता, but it is still existing. So we need to clear out at the root level. We cannot move in the periphery and say कि अच्छा हमने prohibition कर दिया, penalty कर दिया, इससे अब कुछ नहीं होगा. जो हमने penalty भी किया वो भी 6 months से लेके 2 years तक है. आज तक everybody who they are creating havoc in the society, वो कुछ ना कुछ bribe दे के चले जाते हैं. So bribe, corruption, political ignorance or denial, these things are still existing. तो इसको remove करने की जरूरत है. ये हम तभी remove कर सकते हैं when many people come together. Like the more, like the younger generation, they come together, they talk about it. Probably जितने भी older generations, they're still imbibing what they have inherited from their past generation. तो उनमें शायद इतना gender sensitivity नहीं हो. No offense to anyone on the dais, off the dais, but utna shayad sensitivity na ho. So we can create such groups, we can go to social platforms, we can use Facebook, we can use Instagram to create such awareness, to bring people from such society jo specifically apni problems ke bare mein baat kare. We can see many TV shows today जो इस gender sensitization पे बात करते हैं, but इससे क्या हो रहा है, we are just looking at what we are seeing. हम देखने जाते हैं 60 minutes का शो, 120 minutes का शो, but we forget about these things thereafter. So certain impact has to be created while we are delivering also. I think delivery में भी problem होती है, जिसकी वजह से many people, they still don't talk about these things. इसके अलावा भी हम फेलो प्लेयर्स, डॉक्टर्स, सोशल ग्रुप्स, अनऑर्गेनाइज्ड ग्रुप्स का भी सहारा ले सकते हैं. हम उनका भी सपोर्ट ले सकते हैं इन ऑर्डर टू क्रिएट दिस जनरल अवेयरनेस. बिकॉज ये जो अनऑर्गेनाइज्ड ग्रुप्स हैं, इनको ज्यादा पता है कि ग्राउंड रियलिटीज क्या है, कितना. बिकॉज वंस दीज ट्रांसजेंडर्स आर इग्नोर्ड बाय देयर फैमिली, it tends to happen for this community कि वो mostly begging पे survive करे. I really don't know the statistics as of now, but I can see certain transgenders who still beg, who don't have minimal sustenance of life in the society because उनको recognize ही नहीं किया जा रहा है, उन तक probably ये act पहुंचा नहीं जा रहा है. हम अगर अपर कास्ट की बात करते हैं या फिर हम फैंसी रेस्टोरेंट्स में भी जाते हैं, this community is not actually happily invited when we sit at the tables with the other people. इनके लिए specially abled washrooms नहीं होते हैं, so they have to like choose between which washroom to go to, right? So these are certain problems. हम इनके लिए conclusions में लेके आ सकते हैं कि gender sensitized washrooms बना सकते हैं, ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा इनको हम include कर सकते हैं. One lauding thing about India is कि India has a transgender football team, which is very good, which is like a great initiative. कि हम इसे जल्दी लाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा ट्रांसजेंडर्स आने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. हमने आई थिंक अपने जो फॉर्म्स हैं, कॉलेज के फॉर्म्स में भी, काफी सारे कॉलेज के फॉर्म्स में अब शायद MX भी यूज करना चालू कर दिया है instead of Mr. and Miss, if specifically any transgender students wants to get themselves admitted in a college or for a certain post, तो हमने इसके लिए फॉर्म्स जनरेट करने चालू कर दिए हैं. There's a judge who I think in southern part of India who is a transgender, so she's also deliberating some gender sensitized issues. Talking about this whole community, we have transgenders, but then we have the whole LGBTQAI community. There are a lot of people who are involved in this community. We can talk about bisexual people, we can also talk about the asexual people, demisexual people. They're also there, but what about them? If they don't recognize themselves into the per se 3 categories which are already provided to us. तो आई थिंक उनके लिए भी हमें कुछ ऐसे लॉज बनाने चाहिए या probably ऐसे रूल्स निकालने चाहिए जिससे वो भी अपने आप को एसोसिएट कर सकें. If we are getting that much influenced by the West, so as people say, this is not my personal opinion, but yeah, if we are getting influenced by the West, so we should also adapt what creative things they have done in order to accept such people in the society. They are doing very well. They are organizing all these debate groups, all these talk theories, all these talk shows, all these general meetings where every kind of sexual oriented group, they come, they talk to each other, they share their experiences, and they actually help each other in order to move ahead. तो वो हमें इंडिया में भी probably करना चाहिए, but I know this will take time, but as ordinary citizens, as lawyers probably, or as a human being, we can probably help them in order to get the dignity that they have lost in the few years. So I think I'll end on this note that even if transgenders are still searching for tranquility, it's a high time that we also recognize their psychology and probably help them out in the best possible manner. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Advocate Himachi. That was really beautiful. And yeah, truly, a multi-pronged approach is really needed to bring that big sensitization and awareness for the Transgender Persons Act 2019. We together as a whole, I think together join hands to bring this awareness, and Amity Legal Aid and Literacy Committee is very much pro. We have started our own dedicated cell in the name of Transgender Persons Rights and Disability Rights Cell, and also thanks to the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, who has shown much confidence in us. So it's time now for the questions. So we have some questions, and actually this question is for His Lordship and also for Advocate Deepak Singh. And the question is, when we talk about right to privacy, when the Section 377 was scrapped, 2 things were listed, and that is right to privacy and right to life. You cannot separate them. And if that holds true for everybody, then why not for the LGBTQIA+. So this question is for His Lordship, Justice Rajesh Tandon sir and Advocate Deepak Singh. How would you relate scrapping of Section 377 of IPC and Transgender Persons Act of 2019? Advocate Deepak Singh ji, can you hear me? Fine. Sohail Kazmi sir, would you like to give some perspective on this issue, on this topic?
Am I audible?
Yes. Yes, you're audible. Yeah, Advocate Deepak Singh ji, can you hear me? Okay, let's have Sohail sir's perspective first. Sohail sir. Sir, you're on mute, sir. Sohail sir, you're on mute here.
Ji. Okay.
Ji. Well, His Lordship is also here. Your Lordship, there is one question for you. And the question is, how would you relate the scrapping of Section 377 and the Transgender Persons Act 2019? And also, Sohail, sir.
Yes, again question.
Yes, sir. So the question is, how do you relate the scrapping of Section 377 of the IPC with
that has also been dealt with in the NALSA judgment, because 377 there was judgment of earlier judgment of the Supreme Court also, that is violation to the human rights, because 377 is just a provision which has to be scrapped from the statute book, and I don't think any decision has taken place, and matter is pending before the Delhi High Court, and therefore no comments are required on this.
Ji, sir. Thank you, Your Lordship. Sohail Kazmi, sir, as a media person, क्या जब सेक्शन 377 ऑफ द आईपीसी वाज स्क्रैप्ड, क्या वहां पर जहां पर आप एक बहुत ही सेंसिटिव एरिया में रहते हैं वहां पर और आसपास के इलाकों में, क्या आपने लोगों के बिहेवियर में चेंज देखा, क्या उनके अप्रोच में चेंज देखा, क्या आपने उनके पर्सपेक्टिव्स में चेंज देखा? सोहेल सर।
देखिए स्मिता मैम, लीगल पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से माय लॉर्डशिप ने कह दिया कि दिस it is not to be commented because it's before the Honorable Supreme Court or any Honorable High Courts. लेकिन Jammu Kashmir being a sensitive state, and you see 2019 September, we came from J&K state to Union Territory, and many laws, बहुत से laws यहाँ बदल गए, कुछ laws incorporate हुए, और Article 370 जो 70 years से यहाँ चल रहा था, जो एक privileged स्टेटस देता था जम्मू कश्मीर स्टेट को, वो चेंज हो गया और हम एक यूनियन टेरिटरी में आ गए, और यूनियन टेरिटरी के सेंट्रल लॉस इंट्रोड्यूस हो गए जम्मू कश्मीर में, और उसके तहत राइट टू प्राइवेसी एक्ट जो है वो अभी एज पर द सेंट्रल लॉ यहाँ एक्टिवेट हुआ है आफ्टर 2019 सितंबर, और many laws they have been enforced here in Jammu and Kashmir, and they are slowly being introduced as far as Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir state is concerned. Let's see what more is coming to Jammu and Kashmir, being a sensitive state and being a border affected state in 7.
Ms. Tusha and Ms. Himanshi, we much talk about identity because identity is very pivotal to one's being, and identity is not just one word. Identity is also related with the values of privacy, it's related with choice, it's related with freedom of speech, and it is related with other expressions. So how would you, as an advocate and as a legal professional, how do you understand the word identity? How is it embodied in the Constitution of India? Over to you, Ms. Tusha and Ms. Himanshi.
Ma'am, do you want to take over first?
If you want to, please go ahead, ma'am.
I have a very clear understanding of identity. So identity is any kind of sense of perception that any person has with regards to an affiliation. So it is a very, it is a social construct, identity. When you identify yourself as something or someone, this is with perspective to every other person who is perceiving you. So when you identify to a particular group, and when we talk about transgenders, so I can identify as the female group. This is called identity. This is how I understand identity. So when it comes to topics like the interconnected topics, like for example, privacy, then I have the privacy, I have the identity, I have this right to identify myself as the choice of affiliation. This is where the connotations of privacy and rights come in. Now, this is what I understand by privacy, etymologically and research perspective. Ma'am, please, what is an advocate perspective on this?
I think I agree with you because we have been brought up in a certain manner. हमें बताया जाता है you are a girl, you identify yourself as a woman, you're always a female. But what about these people? They don't know for a certain period of time, or probably by birth, some people, they know. So it may be a chosen identity also, and also probably psychologically. How do they, want others to see themselves? As ma'am said correctly, कि हम किस तरीके से परसीव कराना चाहते हैं अपने आप को, एंड सामने वाला किस तरीके से हमें परसीव कर रहा है. So this is the bottom line. However, law says कि अच्छा identity, there are 3 categories only: male, female, and transgenders. But what beyond transgenders is actually how certain someone sees themselves.
And ma'am, actually, you chose this very good word also, chosen identity. This is what we're striving for. Actually, we all have a given identity. We have a conditioned identity. We are moving towards a chosen identity.
Chosen identity. You're right. You're right.
Yeah, beautifully answered, both of you. Now, this question again is for your Lordship, Justice Tandon. So, when we talk about sexual orientation, and we now understand that there are various sexual orientations. So, why the trans community have been facing the stigma and of discrimination over the years? In your judicial career, so have you seen that people have really been facing discrimination, and are there any matters that you have seen as a judge? What has been your experience with the transgender community? Your Lordship. You're on mute, sir. Your Lordship, you're on mute, sir. Sir, you're on mute, sir. Your Lordship, you're on mute, sir. Yes, sir, you're on mute. Yeah.
Yes, this is just a biological change, and you cannot imagine that person about his personality, because I have seen various persons where you don't, that they don't reflect a third gender, but still they, due to the biological change, that third gender exists them, and they only know it, and therefore one cannot say that this person is a hinjada or that person is a of that third gender. It's very difficult to know. Only that person knows, and it's a very common thing that only they know it, and they will reflect that they are third gender, and we cannot assume that the same person is coming who is a third gender. It's a third gender, they know everything. Therefore we cannot imagine that, and we cannot presume that that person is a third gender person.
Yes, sir, got that, sir. And also there is a question supplementing this. While everybody enjoys the right of sexual orientation, the LGBTQIA++ community does really feel that they feel that there's a large gap in their self-expression. Do you think we have to go a very, very long way in giving them that social acceptance, Your Lordship?
That's a phenomena of the sexual orientation. Everybody wants that, and no one can describe that who is oriented for third gender and who is not as a third gender, and therefore the sexual capacity and sexual, that's a desire of every person that is there, and I don't know how they satisfy. It's very difficult to address at this juncture and to address publicly how they satisfy their sexual desire. That's a very uncommon desire, and maybe a common desire also, but for them it may be uncommon, I don't say that, but how they satisfy it, that it's a very difficult question which I can't answer.
Yes, Lordship. Thank you. Well, this question is now for Sohail, sir. सर, अखबारों में जैसे कि हम लोग जब अपना आर्टिकल पब्लिश करने के लिए देते हैं तो हम लिखते हैं अपने नाम के आगे डॉक्टर, मिस, मिस्टर, मिसेस जो भी। तो सर क्या ऐसे ट्रांसजेंडर कम्युनिटी जब आपको क्या पहला प्रश्न तो यही है, क्या वो आपको कभी लिखते हैं कि उनका आर्टिकल पब्लिश हो, और अगर लिखते भी हैं कभी तो क्या उनके मन में ये हिचकिचाहट होती है कि वो आगे क्या लिखें? ऐसा देखा है सर आपने?
बिल्कुल, बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग मेरे लिए सवाल है।
हाँ, यस
मेरे लिए सवाल है।
जी।
जी सर, आपके लिए सोहेल सर।
देखिए, बिल्कुल बड़ा अच्छा सवाल है, क्योंकि जैसे वक्त बदल रहा है, मुल्क बदल रहा है, हिंदुस्तान बदल रहा है, लोगों की सोच बदल रही है, यूनिवर्सिटीज के टॉपिक्स बदल रहे हैं, डिस्कशंस के पैनल्स बदल रहे हैं। यही बदलता हुआ भारत है, बदलता हुआ हिंदुस्तान है। नेचुरली पहले जो हेजिटेट करते थे किसी तरह से आगे आने को, अपनी बात कहने को या अपनी बात को लिख के एडिटोरियल्स में, आर्टिकल्स में के जरिए लोगों तक पहुंचाने में, आज वैसी हेजिटेशन नहीं है। इफ यू सी क्लोजली, मैंने पहले भी आपसे कहा कि ट्रांसजेंडर्स एक नॉर्मल फैमिली में भी पैदा होते हैं, और फैमिली से ही उनको हिचकिचाहट मिलती थी, फैमिली से ही उनको एक नेगेटिव रिस्पांस मिलता था, तो सोसाइटी उनको कैसे अडॉप्ट करती। लेकिन वक्त बदला है, मैंने कहा कि आज उनको इक्वालिटी का, ड्यू टू शायद एजुकेशन का एक भी एक माध्यम है, और एक ओपननेस, सोशल मीडिया, मोबाइल नेटवर्किंग, अदर थिंग्स, कि उनको भी लगा कि हम भी इंसान हैं। अब कुदरत ने उनके साथ किस तरह से उनको पैदा किया है, और ऑनरेबल सुप्रीम कोर्ट की नालसा जैसी जजमेंट्स या बाकी जो माय लॉर्डशिप ने इतना इलेबोरेट किया, वो सब चीजें उनको भी इक्वालिटी का और एक सामान्य जीवन जीने का अधिकार देती हैं। और जब वो ये समझते हैं कि वो सामान्य जीवन जी सकते हैं, तो वो फ्लेयर ऑफ राइटिंग जो है, देखिए कुदरत ने अगर एक चीज से आपको नहीं नवाजा है, तो दूसरे स्किल से बहुत ज्यादा नवाजा है। बहुत से ट्रांसजेंडर्स हैं जो बहुत अच्छे आर्टिकल्स लिखते हैं, बड़े अच्छे एजुकेशनिस्ट भी बन गए, और बड़े अच्छी बाकी जो सोसाइटी की जो बाकी अंग हैं उनमें रिफॉर्म्स कर रहे हैं। और अगर ऐसी जजमेंट्स उनका मनोबल और बढ़ाती है, तो मैं समझता हूँ आज ओपननेस जो है मीडिया के माध्यम से, और अच्छे जो एडिटर्स होते हैं या अच्छे जो पब्लिशिंग हाउसेज हैं, दे ऑलवेज इनकरेज as far as all spectrums of societies are concerned, and they are a part of our society. We belong to them and they belong to us, and this kind of judgments definitely encourage them to feel a normal human being as far as India is concerned. So there is no hesitation of writing and glorifying their worries, their problems, or their positive approach towards society. So every good publisher is going to encourage them.
Just to add that they are coming as a MLA elections, MP
Yes, sir.
elections. They
Ji,
are
Lordship.
coming, and in Uttarakhand, I have seen one MLA candidate, and she has won the election. I don't know whether I will address as she or he, but third gender is here and succeeded in elections.
My Lordship, I am adding to your point, not only politics, but if you see colors programs in the evening, they are becoming singers, dancers, and everything, and very openly they are saying that we belong to that community, and they feel proud in displaying their talents on different platforms.
Quite right. That's right. Okay.
जी सर, एक लास्ट क्वेश्चन एक्चुअली है सारे ही पैनलिस्ट के लिए, फॉर योर लॉर्डशिप, फॉर अवर एमिनेंट एडवोकेट्स ऑन द पैनल। एवरीबडी सर, वेदर इट इज इंडिविजुअलिटी और आइडेंटिटी, सारी बातों का एक कोर है, वो है सेल्फ रेस्पेक्ट। सो और ये जो सेल्फ रेस्पेक्ट है, इसका जो रियलाइजेशन है, दैट इज एन इंडिविजुअल्स ओन सिग्नेचर, and it is an individual's self-determined design, and that is what we call as टूट जाता है, वो आगे भी नहीं बढ़ते हैं अपने मैटर को ले जाने के लिए। योर लॉर्डशिप एंड द
मनोबल नहीं टूटता, they know that they belong to that category and they enjoy that category. उनका मनोबल उसी में उनकी डिग्निटी है, उसी में उनकी सेल्फ रिस्पेक्ट है, उसी में सब चीजें, जैसे कि मान लीजिए किसी का एक्सीडेंट हो जाता है और उसके पैर और नहीं रहते या कुछ हो जाता है तो ही फील सेटिस्फाइड। मैंने कितनों लोगों को देखा है कि अगर नहीं है, अगर हाथ कटा हुआ है या कोई चीजें हैं तो उनको दूसरी एनर्जी बढ़ जाती है कि उससे काम करने की एनर्जी बढ़ जाती है। वो चाहे पैर से लिखते हैं चाहे कुछ करते हैं। आई हैव सीन इन टीवी एंड ऑल दैट प्रॉस्पेक्ट्स में देखा है। ह्यूमन राइट कमीशन में जब जज था तब भी मैंने देखा है कि ह्यूमन राइट्स, उनका भी ह्यूमन राइट्स होता है। वो एक तरह से एनर्जी एक थर्ड सोर्स से बढ़ जाती है उनकी। तो दे आर सेटिस्फाइड विद देयर डिग्निटी, दे आर सेटिस्फाइड विद दिस रिस्पेक्ट। वो जैसे अपना होता है उसी में रिस्पेक्ट उनकी सेटिस्फाइड हो जाती है।
Yes, got that, Your Lordship.
See,
Thank you so much. 7 to 10. Ji. So would
See,
Ms. Usha and Ms.
I
Himanshi?
would like to answer. I would like to
Yeah,
answer.
please
with
go ahead.
permission.
Yeah.
See, as a society, we have to change our mindset. When it comes to the marriage of our son or the birth of our son, we seek their blessing. We call them home and seek their blessing. But when it comes to the equality of rights, हम ना अपना हाथ खींच लेते हैं, हम उनको वो डिग्निटी और वो रिस्पेक्ट देते नहीं। यूजुअली आई डोंट से कि एवरीबडी विल डू द सेम थिंग, बट ऐसा होता है, हम देखते हैं सोसाइटी में। एज द मैम हैज सेड दैट वो सिग्नल्स पे दे यूज टू बेग। तो ये माइंडसेट चेंज करने से पहले, जैसे अभी एक्ट के अंदर एक सेक्शन है, सेक्शन 12, राइट टू रेजिडेंस। जैसे हमने सुना है, आप सबने भी सुना होगा कि नॉर्मली जब इस तरह के बच्चे जब पैदा होते थे सोसाइटी के अंदर, तो फैमिलीज उनको जो है एक कम्युनिटी को दे देती थी जो उनको बाद में फोर्स करते थे बैगिंग के लिए। तो ये एक्ट आने के बाद, ये सेक्शन इंक्लूड होने के बाद, दे हैव अ राइट टू रेजिडेंस। उनको आप ऐसे ही किसी को नहीं दे सकते। तो मुझे लगता है कि अगर उनको रिस्पेक्ट चाहिए तो इट कैन स्टार्ट फ्रॉम द फैमिली। पहले फैमिली में उनको रिस्पेक्ट मिलनी चाहिए, पहले उनकी एक्सेप्टेंस फैमिली में होनी चाहिए। अगर उनको फैमिली से रिस्पेक्ट मिलेगी और उनको ये एश्योरेंस मिलेगा फैमिली से कि वी आर विद यू, वी आर बिहाइंड यू, तो मुझे लगता है कि कॉन्फिडेंस वहीं से आ जाएगा उन्हें। देन उसके बाद सोसाइटी चेंज होगी। पहले रिस्पेक्ट फैमिली से मिलना जरूरी।
Well said, Advocate Deepak, and I do second that. And as rightly said by Your Lordship, of course, they should know their rights, and they know their rights. And what matters now is that we spread more awareness about their rights. And yes, you should accept them with your open arms. And I think a large-scale sensitization needs to happen, and that should begin right from the school level. So with this, we come to the end of the webinar. Would the esteemed panelist like to say something else regarding the topic, Your Lordship?
No, thank you very much. A very good
Yes,
topic you have chosen, and
Yes.
we have to elaborate in the principles of the Protection of Human Rights Act. And once the life, liberty, dignity, and everything, right from Mohini Jain's case, that is right to education, right to live in a good atmosphere, that is Kapila Hingorani's case of 2003. All these are the prospects which governs that the human right protection. And this judgment of NALSA is based on the protection of, completely based on the protection of human rights. सबकी dignity है, सबकी अपनी ह्यूमन राइट्स है, एंड इनकी भी ह्यूमन राइट्स है, इनकी भी अपनी डिग्निटी है। दे आर हैप्पी विद देयर डिग्निटी, एंड वी आर आल्सो हैप्पी टू टेक देम इन सोसाइटी. We have adopted them in our society, and we are proud of them that they belong to this third gender, and there is nothing. Now, after the judgment of the Supreme Court, this third gender philosophy has cropped up, and they are recognized, and the act has recognized, human rights are recognized. They are also part of our society, that I will say.
Yes, Your Lordship. Thank you so much. Sohail Kazmi, sir, before we wind up, would like to have some words from you. Your last words for today's webinar.
देखिए, जिस इंसान को कुदरत ने जिस तरह से दुनिया में लाना है, जब उसमें आपका कोई योगदान नहीं है, किसी दूसरे इंसान का उसमें कोई योगदान नहीं है उस इंसान को पैदा करने में, तो हमारा भी कोई हक नहीं बनता उसको डिस्क्रिमिनेट करने में कि आप कैसे हैं, आप किस रंग के हैं, किस मजहब के हैं और किस जेंडर से हैं. So I don't think if God doesn't permit us, we should not unnecessarily make differences between genders and on religious basis or on any basis, on color basis, because we are all humans. और हमें एक दूसरे के साथ इस संसार में, इस दुनिया में जीना है, मरना है और चलना है। और ऐसी जजमेंट्स के साथ ही भारत का नया निर्माण, एक नया आयाम जो है, मैं समझता हूँ वो शुरू होगा।
इस दुनिया में आए हैं तो जीना ही पड़ेगा, चाहे जो कुछ भी हो। एक बड़ा पुराना गाना है जो कि चला आ रहा है, मेरी धरती में जो आए हैं सब जीना पड़ेगा, चाहे वो हिंदू हो, मुसलमान हो, जेंडर हो, नॉन जेंडर हो, सबको जीना पड़ता है। And everybody has to satisfy himself that I am a human being and I have dignity.
Yeah, perfect, Your Lordship, and also that we all need to fulfill the purpose of our life, and that is humanity. So before we wind up, I'll request a joint head and additional director, Dr. Shefali Raizada, ma'am, to speak a few words.
Yes, उन्हीं का इंतजार है।
Sir, I cannot see ma'am. I saw her just now. Ma'am, I cannot see you. Would request Arvind Bhanu sir, if you can turn on your camera and if you can hear me, because today there is some problem also in the Wi-Fi issues. Otherwise, I'll request our inspiration for this webinar series, our joint HOI and additional director, Professor Dr. Aditya Tomar sir, to present his concluding remarks. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Sumitra, for a beautiful moderation. And I just like to convey my deep regards to our mentor, Honorable Mr. Justice Rajesh Tandon sir. Kazmi Saab, I just want to share my heart feeling that Honorable Mr. Justice is not only a judge, he is a mentor for Amity Law School, and he is a guardian for Amity Law School, and he is actually honorary professor for Amity Law School. So he is guiding since long as a member, elder member of Amity family. So his views, vision are basically so much important for us, and he is just like a guiding light for us. Now, today, by meeting you virtually, so I just invite you, whenever you will visit to Delhi, please visit us. We are at Noida. And thank you, Deepak Singh ji, just for your words of encouragement and valuable thoughts. So on behalf of Amity Law School Noida, I just want to thanks to all the panelists, including our own Tusha and Himanshi. So thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Aditya sir, and of course, Amity Legal Aid and Literacy Committee is growing under your guidance, and we feel so proud of you. So thank you everybody who made it possible that we could organize the 5th webinar in the series of the webinars on transgender persons Act equality and liberty. And this freedom can only be fulfilled when we realize that the transgender community has the same rights that all of us have it here. So with this note, and on behalf of our founder president, Dr. Ashok K. Chauhan sir, goodbye and God bless everybody. We'll meet next time in the next webinar. Take care, everybody. Mobin sir, we can now close the webinar. Thank you, everyone.